Hey guys, my name's Crystal Kenny, and I'm in love with creating. All things artistic and imagination involved. I'm an American girl who chased her creative dreams all the way to Paris, France, making a living using photography. This podcast takes you inside the stories of all the artsy folks I've met along the way and gives you that extra push to discover your creative gifts. The desire to create is deeply inside each and every one of us, and I give you the tools and inspiration to find a new way of living a more creative life. This is La Vie Creative, the podcast. My guest today has used creativity in many forms, from being a tattoo artist, a designer, an artist, a writer, everything you can think of. She is a very creative woman living in Paris, France. Today we talk about how her art has changed over the years and how she formed a new group of creative women called Gang of Witches. Please welcome to the show, Sunny Buick. All right. So welcome to the show, Sunny. I have just been going over your work for the last couple of days, like looking at all the things you do. You are a busy woman between painting, writing, you do performances, and you have a tattoo shop. Is that all correct?
Yes.
You are super busy. And I know you're originally from Canada and then you were in San Francisco. So what brought you to Paris?
Well, I'd started to become a Francophile in high school. I had my best friend, whose also name was Sunny. She was a big influence on me. She was taking French, and she was really well read. She was always telling me good books to read. And I took French, and I thought, geez, this language is so beautiful. I already knew I wanted to be an artist, and it kind of like, I guess my Francophilism kind of is like, well, if you're an artist, you have to speak French and you have to have lived in Paris. And but then once you like start digging, or for me, I mean, everything is so, for me, it's like the top of the top. Our architecture, food, fashion, history, philosophy, even the fact that democracy, communism, uh, rebelling against royalism, rebelling against the church. It all starts here, and so I just was like, it was just on my bucket list. Like one of these days, I'm going to go live in Paris. Who knows, for a year, just so that I can learn to speak French. Because when I took French in high school, I was like, this is never going to happen. You don't have an opportunity to practice. Just it wasn't happening. So it was just like a bucket list. I was like, gonna go live in France one of these days. And then I like, little by little, I had checked off so many things on my bucket list. And then I went through a divorce, and I found myself in San Francisco. Couldn't find a boyfriend. Was living in a roommate situation with a girl that used to be my best friend. By the end, we hated each other. And like what is keeping, I went to Paris for the first time on vacation, and I was just like, I left my heart here. I was like, what is keeping me in San Francisco? I started to realize that, there wasn't that much keeping me there. Wasn't that much stuff exciting for me. And it was just the time to like check another one of my dreams off of that list.
I think that's like so brave, because a lot of people, you hear that a lot from others, like, I want to move to Paris. I love Paris. And it's really brave to, show up, because you didn't really have anything here. But I guess it was a little easier because you were like, oh, okay, I have nothing here now. Let me just go.
It was easy because my family is tiny. I have a half sister that wasn't even around when I was growing up. I just have my mom. I have an uncle that's not that close to me. So like, didn't have family ties. The things that were keeping me in San Francisco were like, I had a lot of stuff. My first marriage, I was married to an antique dealer. I just had a ton of crap. So it's like these kind of things keep you from moving. Like your material possessions and your family. And then another huge hurdle is the paperwork. Like I thought, how can I do it? I thought it's going to take me 5 years to like save up enough money. Maybe I could get a student visa. Like I was trying to figure out how to do it. And So that's another, I think that's another thing that keeps people from making the big leap is because it's really hard. You have to have like, you have to have money or you have to have
Yeah, yeah.
some talent that will make it you attractive to another country that, that companies would want you over their own citizens, so
Hmm.
it's not a, I got really lucky. I think because I'm kind of an underground uh, artist, like it just, I found a way, kind of
Yeah.
sneaky way, but I found a way. And it's all because of just the way I made choices in my life that made it possible.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. No, I think everyone that I've met here, unless they came through a giant company, you have to fight to be here, but there is always a way. You have to be pretty creative in your ways of staying here too. So
Yeah,
if you are dreaming of moving here, it's definitely possible. But like you said, you got to get creative.
yeah.
It's not easy. And when you arrived to Paris, was it everything you dreamed, or what were your feelings upon arrival?
Yes, I was really, really happy. But I was in this horrible nightmarish situation that I don't really too much want to go into it, but
Yeah.
it was a really bad situation, and I was too proud to go back to the US and say, I couldn't hack it. So I stuck it out in a kind of a nightmare situation for a whole year. And
Mm,
then after that year was over, I decided I'm not going to speak one more word of English. And I'd already, so it took me that long to kind of build up conversational skills.
hmm.
And so I like got out of the situation that I was in. I stopped speaking English, and uh, then things started to get a lot better. And then I started to like see like how the quality of my life had improved like 100% from that
Yeah.
of being American with no help with like paying my own health care and being in a roommate situation and just kind of like coasting by in life in California, not
Yeah.
not getting
Speaking French
ahead.
here.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so important to speak French. I think that helps a lot because otherwise you depend on other people a lot and then you get trapped.
Yeah.
I've been in similar situations. Like I hear a lot of people like that. You get kind of trapped when you need the help. But
Yeah.
how did all that lead to you
People take
starting?
advantage of you too because you can't communicate. So they like,
Exactly. Yeah, it's so true. And they're not very nice to you. I mean, they're not going to be very nice anyway because it's Paris, but they're at least a little nicer in French. And how did all that lead to you opening a tattoo shop? Like, how did you start
oh,
tattooing?
I that's tattooing is actually what got me over here, right? So when you're a tattoo artist, you work for cash. And
Hmm.
so I was illegal when I first moved over here, and I was
Hmm.
working for cash, and that's what made it possible for me to I was an illegal immigrant, um, and that's how I do it. Yeah, I
That's so cool. I mean,
bad
there's a lot
bad
of people
girl.
that no, I hear that all the time from expats. That's what I'm saying about being creative, getting your butt over here. You
Uh-huh.
just do what you got to do.
Well, see, so that was a choice. I decided I wanted to be a tattoo artist. That was a choice that I had made, and um, that made it possible for me to go anywhere I wanted in the world. I pack up my suitcase full of equipment. I could go anywhere in the world and set up shop and tattoo people and meet new people. And then I could do that. Right now I can't because I'm married and I'm kind of like. But it's a yeah, it's a career that's a pretty smart choice.
Hmm.
Very
It keeps you free.
flexible. Yeah.
Yeah, it's all about freedom. And do you find that it's different what the Parisians want as far as tattoos? Like, do a lot of Parisians have tattoos? Like, is it a different kind of market here?
Um,
How does
I think it's yeah, it's that there's more than 10% of the French population that have a tattoo now. I think in the
mm,
US it's getting close to maybe 30% I heard recently. But
uh-huh.
let's say 10 years ago it was probably 10% of the population too. So uh, you in most things French, they're 10 years behind whatever is hot in
Yeah.
the US. So
Yeah.
tattooing in the last 3 years has totally exploded. There are so many tattoo shops now that I'm actually not focusing on the tattoo part of my business anymore.
Hmm.
Um, it's a mix of like me being a little, I've been tattooing 28 years. So it's a mix of me being a little bit tired, wanting to find something new. And it's also, I'm being kind of like forced to make that choice because
Yeah.
it's a generational thing. Like all these new tattooers are the hot stuff. They
Hmm.
are creating new styles of tattooing that I'm not willing to like. I'm not willing to follow the whatever's hype,
Trending.
trending. Yeah,
Yeah.
so yeah, I'm kind of like an old dog, and so yeah, the tattooing part, I redid my website a year ago, and I kind of tried to put it so that it wasn't like the first thing you see, but it's still really really important to me because all of the it's a language tattooing, like all of the roses, anchors, eagles, tigers, panthers, all these things are like the basic language symbols, the language of symbolism. And I
Yeah.
use all of that in the painting and the performance, and it's it's really a part of who I am. So I don't want to reject tattooing totally, but
Hmm.
I kind of am tired of people just saying, "Oh, she's a tattoo artist." Like, you know how people like to put you in a box, uh,
Yeah, definitely.
because it's human nature to want to understand things, so you just kind of put a label on them. Um,
Hmm.
but I'm really trying to get people to understand that I am more than a tattoo artist. I would like to have the label multimedia artist, but I want people it to be clear to people that I do performance, that I make videos, that I want to do installations in museums. I want to even like collaborate with people and somehow bring my retro girl aesthetic into the future because this is we're going to go off on another shoot, but with the great Make America Great Again,
Yeah.
really made me question myself and question this romanticism that I had for the past. It
Hmm.
really like made me take a look at that and realize that there was something that was not too healthy about that. And
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to live in the past. I but
Hmm.
there is a part of me that's kind of like this traumatized child because of growing up with a threat of nuclear war. There's a lot of
Yeah.
people, they call it postmodernist. So it's a
Interesting.
person that's like kind of nostalgic for other era, who likes like vintage stuff because they've been traumatized by the idea of a future that's dystopic.
Hmm.
So I would like to like I think that just thinking dystopically creates more dystopia. And I think that
Yeah.
it's the artist's role today to imagine a future that is like really exciting and imagine all the possibilities and to talk about it and to write about it because there's been so many movies and so many films. It's a way to warn people of this is how it could go if we continue down this path. But now I think we need people to imagine how wonderful it could be if we do make those changes, if we move our butts. So like I would love to collaborate with people and do virtual reality. There was a really great show in Paris a year or two ago called Computer Girls, showing
Hmm.
how women were involved in the technology that has led up to the internet and the computer today. They were involved in the very beginning, and they kind of got shoved out a little bit. And even in coding, there's a lot of sexism in the coding. But this art show
Yeah.
was so incredible. There was artists that were doing a virtual reality. They were doing video. They were doing robotics and fiber optic arts. And
Wow.
it was I was just like I was so impressed by it and really surprised myself too because I've always been like uh, shied away from that. And I don't personally want to learn to how to code and stuff like that. But I think
Hmm.
that if I collaborated with some other people, that I could bring my stuff into the future. I could bring my ideas into the future. And then, I think collaboration is also key to where we're at now, is to make those connections
Hmm.
and community. Um, I think it's really key because media and politicians and the mentality of countries right now is really trying to separate to better control.
Yeah.
And we need to reject that totally, reject the fear that they're feeding us, and
Hmm.
get together and do it. Like a lot of work to
Yeah,
do.
no, I completely agree. I mean, the media, it connects us and it also disconnects us, and we have to decide, how to use it wisely. And I like what you're saying about using it to like make art with other artists or open, different art forms up to you. It sounds like you're using it in a more positive way. And I noticed you had a group called Gang of Witches. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I've been working with them for longer than we had Gang of Witches. We did some other events in Paris under the name Nyctalops. We did an event called the Cabaret Organique, and
Oh, fun.
I did a performance piece where I was tattooing in a trailer. So
Hmm.
one side of it was open, so it turned into a kind of a TV set, and it was kind of like a voyeuristic uh, presentation of tattooing. I tattooed only girls. I asked them to dress kind of sexy, and I tattooed their legs and thighs. And it was funny because when people came to look, if I looked up, they would try to hide from me because they didn't want me to see them seeing me. So
That's so funny. Very
um,
voyeurist.
yeah, it was in a passageway in Paris, and sometimes you walk through these covered passageways and you see art galleries. And I always
Hmm.
oh, I'd love to have like a little art studio in one of these passageways. And so that was what we started out like that, and then it kind of like that group kind of disbanded, but we still have people that performed with us back then. And we started doing like women's get-togethers where we would have a salon. We'd get together in a girl's apartment, and we would like uh, take turns like lecturing on a subject.
Oh,
And
cool.
then one day we went together as a group to the Museum of Gemology. It's like all
Hmm.
the beautiful stones and
Yeah.
like. Have you been there? It's right behind
I
the Musée de Histoire Naturelle. It's
I need to go. I
incredible.
didn't
It's
know it
incredible.
existed.
There's like these outside. There's this huge black crystal that's like uh 2 meters by 2 meters. It's just like a
Wow.
huge like cluster of crystals, and it's black. So we were there, and we were all kind of like, we're all very much witches. We're very much interested in the archetype of the witch. Very interested in developing power. We're very feminist. Very into like astrology, um, the properties of different stones, properties of different plants. So we were just like decided to visit the museum together, and then uh, later on that evening, they were like, I think it was kind of like the la suite of our women's salon. One of the girls had the idea to start an art collective, and at first, the first idea was to call it Witch, um, based on the 1960s, 70s feminist group, women interdisciplinary terrorists from hell, um,
Wow.
terrorist conspiracy from hell, and so we changed it to Gang of Witches because if you type witch into Google search, you're just going to come up with a 50 million things. So it turned into Gang of Witches. And at first we were four, and now we are. I don't know how many members we are now because it's always changing. Some people are coming, some people are leaving, and every year there's a book that comes out. There's a podcast. They just started a new podcast about in English. Um, So there, what else? There is a residence, an artist residency.
Wow,
Every
very
year there's either an exposition or a festival, and we had to cancel our festival this year, but next year in June, early June, at Parc de Villette, there will be concerts, there'll be lectures and films, and I will do a small performance, which is I usually do in interlude Dada. So my performance.
What is this? This sounds fun.
If you go to my website, you'll see the performance from 2019, and
Hmm.
it's only 6 minutes long. And this year it will only be 3 minutes long, or next in 2021. So yeah, it's just I get carte blanche to do something Dadaist.
This is so fun. Wait, how do you join the gang of witches? Do you have to like sacrifice a goat or something?
No,
How does it
no, uh it's by invitation.
work?
And it's
Nice.
usually
Private.
yeah, it's private. It's usually we start doing working with somebody, and then they get invited to be an official member of the gang.
And you were talking about like developing powers and stones. And I know the big trend right now is everyone's getting into crystals and
Uh-huh.
rocks and things like this. So, what do you mean when you say like developing powers? What are things that people can do to like develop their, are you talking about like your artistic powers or just your, your natural abilities?
Well, Um, I don't have any crystals. I would love to have some crystals, but how could I go find some crystals that were like that are vintage? Because I think
Yeah.
like this fashion for crystals now, there's going to be a lot of damage done. It becomes like if everyone's crazy about rose quartz, like they're
Mhm.
mining towards rose quartz. I just imagine the destruction that happens when they like are mining for these crystals, like
Yeah.
so I wouldn't mind having some crystals around if they were vintage, but there's no way for me to like find any vintage crystals. So I think developing right for me, I'm developing my power through mental effort.
Mhm.
I this the pandemic has made me take a look at it brought up a lot of childhood trauma, and it
Mhm.
it got so bad that
Yeah.
I'm in I got into therapy
Mhm.
because I wasn't feeling too good, and then so I also believe, because it's been a hard period for me the last 3 years, because tattooing is it's I'm morphing. I'm making a transformation into something new, and it's not clear yet what that new person is going to be. And
Yeah.
it's kind of like I'm also mourning this part of me that's maybe I'm losing it, or it's kind of dying. And so it's really easy to fall into negativity. And then when you're in negativity, you realize that it just attracts more negativity.
Mhm.
And I'll explain to people what I'm going through just so they know like what's going on. But then you sound like I could hear myself talking, and I sounded like selling, I was unselling myself. Do you understand what
Yeah.
I'm saying? That I was like,
Yeah, yeah. You just sound like you're like, I sound like a mess and no one's gonna believe in me and like just
well,
selling negativity.
yeah, it's pretty negative, the story. But at the same time, I felt like it was necessary to tell people where I was at. And then I was like, oh no, that sounds so depressing. And then how can I ever like, it's better just to say, I'm really excited. I'm making this transformation in my life, and I'm really, really excited about what the doors could open. So for me, the power is really to combat this, like these old patterns of thinking. It comes from
Mhm.
childhood trauma, I think. So I
Yeah.
guess it boils down to like there are neural paths in your brain that become really entrenched,
Mhm.
and it's very easy for your thoughts to kind of go down those lines. But it's also
Yeah.
possible to retrain your brain to do more positive things. And um, I think that uh, I think that this is very complicated. It gets into that stuff I was talking about being interested in the future. I found out that this thing exists called transhumanism, and
Hmm.
transhumanism believes that we as humans are not totally evolved yet. That there's going to
Mm.
be a new stage, and it's funny because I have been working with anthropomorphic animals and fruits and things, foods, for a long
Yeah.
time. And I started to realize that this idea of the chimera and also images of the Egyptian gods had animal heads. And I
Hmm.
thought, maybe that's the future for us as humans. Maybe aesthetic surgery will get so advanced that someday we could switch our heads for that of a
Oh my goodness.
tiger. So I've done paintings where there's a woman body, but she has a tiger head and she also has tiger fur. Um, and I'm thinking that there's a story here of like, yeah, we could actually physically change ourselves with surgery, but I think you can also change your mental. Uh, uh, you can transcend, like Buddhist monks have done it. Like these are highly evolved beings, the people who arrive at being able to control their thoughts and then
Hmm.
reincarnate and make a positive reincarnation because they've done so much work and have so much power mentally. They can swim in freezing cold water. They can meditate outdoors in the middle of winter. It's amazing what human beings can do through the power of their mind. So this is when I'm talking about witch, being a witch. I think that I'm really interested in the history of how women were oppressed. It goes back to these women who were healers and midwives, and as patriarchy was taking hold of Christianity was taking hold of Europe, and they wanted to make the women subservient. I think the witch was they were threatened by these powerful women who were independent, and um, uh, also if you start really delving deep into witchcraft, you start to realize that yeah, the archetype of the strong woman who's rebellious. It's a powerful thing, to realize. Also goddess worship and the divine feminine. Um, there's a lot of power there. You don't have to like. I'm not. I think it's very fascinating spell work and crystals and potions and stuff like that. But I'm more into studying the stories of women who could have been considered witches and
Hmm.
their uh, their arrogance, their rebellion, and the power that they had to navigate a world that was not didn't really hadn't made a place for them. Said no, you're not allowed, and they didn't listen, and they just went barging ahead.
And then, yeah, I mean, it's interesting to hear you talk about that because just, you could compare what they were doing to a lot of religions, like they have their things they worshiped, prayer, they had their spells, they were just chanting. I mean, there's a lot of similarities. It's just like Catholicism won out on that one. So, do you think that we're still recovering from that? Do you think all women have like their inner witch and that, it's just kind of been put down in a way?
Well, I think women are incredible creative beings because they have the power to create life. And I think that's really, really threatening uh, to the patriarchy. And because why? Because if women started to realize their power, then that would upset everything.
Yeah, definitely. If we could come together, do you think that Do you think it's like inherent that because there's always this struggle. I have a lot of gay male friends that are like, women would rule the world if they would just be less catty and help each other because men are always like, I got your back, man. It's like this boys club. Do you feel that way, or how do you feel about that?
Yeah, I think women are vicious. I don't, like I was raised by a kind of a man hater, and I realized pretty young when I was working in a tattoo shop with other men that I was kind of carrying around her baggage. And I was
Hmm.
like, why am I so hard on them? I don't think it's so easy to be a man. And I've met women who have been just as bad as them. And I think with the patriarchy, if women were ruling the world, but they were doing exactly the same things that the men were doing, like power plays, narcissism, uh, killing, and uh, selling weapons. I think that it's exactly the same thing. It's not matriarchy. It's
Yeah.
women using the tools of patriarchy. So
Yeah.
it's more than just women ruling the world. I think that even, yeah, your gay friends who say that women need to stop. We've been as an oppressed people, we attack each other because
Hmm.
that's what it does. That's what oppression does.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. That's what we've
and I
learned to do.
think and I think that even men, they probably oppressed men probably do that to each
Hmm.
other if they're in an
Yeah.
oppressed situation. Um, I think that we all need to stop that bullshit.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. It's might be like a lot of people don't even realize they are oppressed or that they are doing things for that reason. So I think it's good we have this conversation so people can start to think about that. And what are some things that help you feel inspired or help you evolve? What are some of your routines to help your creative endeavors?
Whenever I'm feeling empty or not inspired, I like to go to a museum. I always
Hmm.
feel like going home and painting, like directly after I've gone to a museum. Um, Tattooing has been really great. I have so much debt to tattooing because my clients always come to me with their ideas, and they have pushed me to draw things that I would never have drawn.
Hmm.
And even like sometimes the project will fall through, that the client will disappear, and I love the drawing so much that drawing becomes a painting. I and then I think that also it's a gift when things are slow, because I've got
Hmm.
this kind of like I've got an anxiety that like pushes me to like it's kind of like a panic, like, oh shit, I'm never gonna have work ever again, and this has happened for many many years. There's always like
Yeah.
downtime, and it always like makes me think, well, what could I do to generate some income? So like that. Actually, sometimes the negative stuff is a real gift. Like
Mm.
it really, like dark times kind of really push you to like go, oh, I need to reevaluate. I need to look at um, what I can do to like get myself out of the situation to survive.
Yeah.
To try new things. Like I am always writing down ideas, and often sketching, and then that sketch doesn't like get finished, and I keep binders full of old drawings, and then
Hmm.
like I go through them again and like pull things out, and it's just like uh things are timely. Like I'll go back and bring back old ideas. So I think that the creativity, um, I kind of do a stocking of my creativity all along,
Hmm.
and I review that often. And so I get inspired by myself sometimes by just going through old sketchbooks, or saying, "Oh, I'm going to start a new painting. What should I do?" And I'll like look through old images and be like, this one's begging me to like. be completed right now, So,
I
um,
like that.
yeah, what else keeps it evolving and changing? Like I am a book nerd. I love uh, searching out old monograph books in bookstores. Instagram is huge inspiration for me, and Pinterest, and I used to be totally into blogs. So you find people that have the same kind of interests as you,
Mhm.
and then you
Yeah.
discover you'll like fall down rabbit holes of like think just because they have some of the similar interests as you, and then you'll discover something new that you hadn't ever seen before, thanks to
Yeah.
someone who has similar interests to you. Um, and like I read a lot too. I have a huge list of books that I would like to look into. Like I would like to just to explore more this concept of transhumanism, and
Hmm.
um, and read, have lots of subjects that I want to explore that have nothing to do with art, but I think that
Yeah.
bring a lot to my art afterwards.
Yeah, they talk about that a lot. A lot of the past guests talk about, mixing mediums, mixing ideas to inspire like their art. It doesn't have to be art necessarily.
Yeah. Yeah, I think
And what,
it's easy to get derivative of other artists when you're only looking at other artists.
yeah, you need to bring in some other things to inspire you from the world. And what are some future projects you're excited about? How can listeners support you? What would you like people to know about?
Yeah, I'm really dreaming of being having shows in museums where there would be an installation. So there would be my paintings hanging, but there would also be objects, and the whole room would be kind of like this immersive experience. And that maybe there would be a TV there with a filmed performance. And so I'm trying to put that idea into people's head, and I haven't done that exactly. I have done some installations in the past. So when you have an idea that's not that you've never done before, and it's so ambitious, it's hard to like make people realize that you're capable of doing it, right?
Yeah, like
So
where's the proof?
yeah, so I have two ideas that I'm trying to write proposals for. I figure that's the way to do is just like kind of gather some images, write a proposal, and start contacting people. I'm and also in the early 2021, I hope to have one of my performances that I documented on video. So there's a PowerPoint, and then there's it's about the history of lowbrow art, which was a California underground art movement in the 1990s. And
Hmm.
my performance piece was three different characters that I played that explain the history. One is a real bitchy art critic, and she's a doctor of criminology, and she thinks those artists are criminals, degenerates, that the art is not worthy at all of consideration, which really shows the official attitude about this art
Yeah.
movement. Then the second character is a beatnik artist, and she's like me, and she defends the artist, and she every single argument that the critic had, she breaks it down. She breaks it by showing an example of how another avant-garde movement was criticized and put down in the beginning. Then the last character is a guru, and she explains like how do you go on and have hope, and how do you keep working when you realize that the world is made up of elitist systems that you can't get into. And she gives a whole
Yeah.
list of all kinds of underground art movements who were activists and who were shaking the boat and who did really important do-it-yourself artwork, like Billboard Liberation Front, people who, the punk rock movement who published their own uh, records and whatnot, and even folk artists who use art as a form of therapy, and they obsessively decorate their homes, and it's just a lifestyle. So it wraps up on a very positive note, and I hope that will be on YouTube in the beginning of the year. It's almost done. What
No,
other
that's so.
future projects I'm working on? Like I said, I would really like to collaborate with some people that have like some technological skills. and
Hmm.
that costs money. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, I would love to find like a handful of people who want to produce me,
Yeah.
um, who would like to have producer credit, or who, Patreon's a really great thing. But I don't like the idea that that there's all this content behind a wall. Like, I want things to
Hmm.
be free, but you have to realize that the artist needs money to make these things happen, and she also has to pay her rent.
Yeah.
Yes, it gets really frustrating with things where you like Instagram and doing podcasts and putting out all this content for free. Sometimes it feels like we're getting used to not having to pay for anything. So
Hmm.
I try to support a small handful of people who are creative that I love. And
Yeah.
I encourage other people to do so as well, to really realize that the artist is important. And if you are consuming a ton of their stuff, you've got to realize that it's time to give it back a little bit, because if that person has helped you in any way, then you have to kind of pay it forward. Some other future projects. Yeah, I'm looking forward to kind of uh, eventually um, phasing out the tattooing, maybe getting a job as a professor in an art school, or finding some other way to maybe finding a couple of patrons of art that want to support me. Um,
Yeah.
and what else? I'd like to do more performance art. Like to I have tons of ideas.
Yeah, no, I love it. I already have a couple people in mind I want to connect you with. Also, if you're a producer listening, please
Yeah,
reach out to Sunny today.
and
And
support
where
the
can
create like be creative. Support your favorite
they?
podcast.
Oh, you're so sweet. And where can people find you online? Where what website, what
I have
Instagram?
a website, sunnybuick.com, and you'll find a lot of stuff there. And really encourage people to go check out my YouTube channel too. It's just Sunny Buick. You should be able to find it pretty easily. I have Instagram, and it's Sunny lower bar Buick.
Hmm.
Um, and I love it and hate it, but I would love to have more followers, because it seems that that's where all the value is having like huge amount of followers, which is just so frustrating. Um,
Oh, I know.
what else? What else do I have? Like, I have several Facebook accounts, but I'm not too much into Facebook. But there's several
Yeah.
accounts there. Um, I have something on Twitter too. It's basically, how you can make Instagram go to all of them, but
Yeah.
I would just like check out my site, check out Instagram. That's the best places, and YouTube.
Okay, great. I'll put that all in the show notes. And I was so happy to finally chat with you today, Sunny. Thank you so much. And everyone, go check out Sunny Buick's work. It's beautiful, and she has a lot of amazing ideas. So if you're wanting to be inspired, then head on over to sunnybuick.com. And I hope we'll meet in person soon once this stupid pandemic is over.
Oh, we will. I promise you. And thank you so much for listening and for giving me this platform. I really, really appreciate you, and I love what you're doing. I love your voice and your enthusiasm and your smile, and you're shining also.
Thank you so much, Sunny. Thanks so much for tuning in to La Vie Creative. You can find more information on MissParisPhoto.com. And if you enjoyed this show, please feel free to share and spread the word for all my creative guests. We have the power to help them to keep doing what they love. See you next time.